Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of State of the State. I am Sunday Kolawole. Apologies for coming a bit behind schedule. We had to deal with some very important state matters on the part of the resource person for this week, and of course that's why we had to come a bit behind schedule. Thank you very much for keeping faith with State of the State on this channel. Once again, welcome. Today we'll be looking at the state of education in Ondo State, and joining me in the conversation is the Honorable Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Professor Ibeke Dajibe. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
You're very much welcome.
Thank you.
Now let's start from the start. Andrew, to what extent is the AIDA to administration bridging the infrastructure gap in the education sector? It seems to be an obvious gap from our findings and from our day-to-day experience, even as citizens.
Thank you very much. And I want to say that there has been existed a very wide gap in terms of infrastructural need, very wide gap. And this has started many years ago, but I want to say that the government of Dr. Loke Orimsa is already addressing this issue, and this gap is being bridged. I will just mention some few examples. For instance, there were schools, both primary and secondary schools. Most of their infrastructures are not in good shape. They are in bad shape. These infrastructures are in a state that the students, they don't have a functional classroom, they don't have a functional laboratories, and so on and so forth. But the government is addressing these issues.
The government is addressing the issue.
Yes.
Addressing the issue. What exactly?
For instance, in terms of school renovation, for 2025, 79 schools were renovated, and the renovation started in 2025. Almost 99% of those schools have been completely renovated. This is a huge intervention, and in 2026. We have more than 80 projects, 80 schools that will also be renovated in the Ministry of Education, both secondary school and both junior and senior secondary school. And at primary school level, we have a lot of them. More projects, more schools that are being taught. Some of them, they are being fenced. Some of them, there is reconstruction, and some are renovation projects in all these schools, and it is a huge relief to those schools, and more schools will also be included in the coming years.
But when you do all of this, don't you think it also be a waste if there is no provision of security in these schools? I don't know if you got a report that burglary cases in some schools very recently. What will government do to address this too?
Okay, thank you. Somebody mentioned the issue of burglary issue. But I'm not aware of this. We have not officially received report on this. The head of the school has not reported to us. But I want to say that government is doing a lot in terms of security. We haven't had cases of security breaches. Yes, at least I've not had, and I've not seen any report on that. But the security agencies, the Ministry of Education is working with this agency to ensure that our schools are safe. The police force, the Amotekun Corps, the NSCDC, the military, they are all working in partnership with the Ministry of Education to ensure that our schools are secured. But the schools are also, I'm very sure that they are taking some steps to be security conscious.
What is government also doing in terms of perimeter fencing? Because to a large extent that will also help.
Yes, a number of schools are being fenced now. As part of the renovation projects that are going, yes, that are going on in some of our public schools. Although everything cannot be done at a time, but gradually it has started, and it will go around so many schools in the next few years, which I know.
What is the grounds of the Ondo State government in St. Louis School, Ondo?
Okay, thank you. The Ministry of Education tries to make sure that there is discipline in our schools. There has to be due regard to rules and regulation and law. But so many things have gone wrong before now. This we are trying to correct. for St. Leo, just to go straight to the question, is one of the private schools in Ondo State. The school is at Ondo. On resumption, just before the end of last year, an issue came up. Some members, particularly the leadership of Parents Teachers Association of the school, brought a report that there was a new head of school posted to that school, and the new head just took some unilateral decisions, particularly with regards to the Parents Teachers Association, that the head of the school cancelled that PTA, the Parents Teachers Association. As you know, we have different stakeholders in the education sector. We have the students, we have the parents, we also have the staff, the workers. The Parents Teachers Association is a major stakeholder. Whatever decision we take, whatever we want to do at the ministry level, we carry them along, we educate them about whatever. So for a school to cancel PTA, it means the head wants to run the school unilaterally. So the report came to us. We invited the head of the school so that we can intervene and see what went wrong. The head of school refused to come. And by January, all schools resumed January 5th, 2026. The head of the school felt that the PTA leadership challenged her authority. For that reason, she declared that the children of those parents of the leadership of PTA will not be allowed to come to the school. So there was intervention by the zone education officer to allow those children access to the school. The head refused. The matter was brought before us. We saw this as denial of their right, access to education. We invited the head of the school again and the ministry to come and explain her side so that we can resolve it. She refused to come again, and the other action we decided to take was to ask the zonal education officer to go and intervene again, but the head of school refused to listen to anybody. And those children, they were staying at home for no reason, for no offense of theirs. It is a case of transfer aggression, yes, to the children. It was at that point we ordered the school to be closed. And the key was placed at the gate and noticed that the school remained closed. But the head of the school mobilized to the gate and broke the key and removed the notice there. It was at that point that we made it public, and we made radio announcement and on all social media that the school had been closed. But the church has intervened, and the head of the school was brought to the ministry this morning with the leadership of the church, and an apology was tendered, and the church promised that yes, we have reversed the order to close down the school.
Well, how many people knew that you reversed the order? Because while you were closing the school,
yes,
in your words, you did radio announcement and all that.
Yes.
Now that you are reopening the school, if not for this conversation, how will the people know?
I think the meeting happened this afternoon.
Okay, this afternoon?
Yes, okay. Before the end of today, the announcement will go on the air so that people will know that the school has been reopened.
All right, so
yes,
beyond the St. Louis school,
yeah,
how well is the Ondo State government, via your ministry, taking issues of discipline, administrative discipline? How well, how serious is government taking this to forestall this kind of an occurrence?
Thank you very much. I said that a lot of things are wrong in the system, which we want to correct at the ministry level, Ministry of Education, at school level, and we are correcting this. For instance, we moved out in December to monitor some schools, and those schools were found, particularly the heads of those schools, were found not to do the right thing, and they were queried, and some of them have been posted. In fact, some of them are being sanctioned now. Yes, some are reporting at the headquarters. That is for staff, but then for students, a lot of indiscipline among the students. And we have decided to monitor whatever that is happening in these schools. And this afternoon, about 3 or 4 schools with their principals were brought to the Ministry of Education to address the issue of indiscipline in their school. The students that are involved were brought. The principals came, and actions are being taken on that, and it will continue. In 2026, a lot of monitoring exercise will be carried out to really monitor the way schools are run by the heads of those schools, the way students behave, the issue of indiscipline. Last year, we had cases of street fighting by the students.
In the state capital?
Yes, in the state capital. So the issue is being addressed. We have summoned the heads of those schools, and the students, they were brought, and they are facing disciplinary action. We will do more of this in 2026 so that we can address the issue of indiscipline. Another area is issue of examination malpractices that is very common, and we are taking steps to also address this. The students that are qualified to register for WIC are students that passed exam to SS3. But in the past, a lot of students, in fact some in SS1, they will register for WIC, and this gives room for them to cheat exam because they are not well grounded, they are not prepared for the exam. All this we are stopping. But we may not be able to stop this without having all data from all our schools being migrated into our digital platform. We have mandated all schools, both private and public, to migrate their data into our digital platform so that the right thing will be done. So that if a student commits an offense in his or her school, he or she cannot move to another school and secure admission, because we monitor all the students. Yes, for you to change your school, you will get approval from the school where you are coming from and the school that will admit you, and final approval from the Ministry of Education. So for a student who has committed an offense, we will never approve the transfer of such student to another school.
Prof, if you permit me to digress a little bit, while you were rector of Rufus Polytechnic Award, you were known for your hard stance against exam malpractice. In fact, those were the days when EMIC came back alive somehow. You were also Vice Chancellor at Nikolai University. Your track record also speaks on your stance against all of this indiscipline. How well then are you finding the personnel in the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology key into your vision of instilling discipline? Are they saying that is too much?
Thank you very much. Yes, in every system, when you want to make a change, there will be some kind of resistance. But once you are determined to make such change, people will adjust it gradually.
You maintain those what resistance you face?
Yes, initially, some members of the ministry, they don't believe that the approach I'm taking, that we should allow things to go the way things have been. But I told them that there must be a change. If you want better results, you must change the way you do things. That I'm going to adopt new approach. And gradually everybody is keying into this new approach.
Well, Prof, let's look at something. Access to education seems to be one thing that many governments want to really look into at the state level, at the federal level. You find many institutions springing up these days, many private institutions too, even at the primary and secondary level. Aren't you bothered with the proliferation of these schools at the expense of quality and standard of both infrastructure and learning processes in these institutions?
Thank you very much. You have mentioned the key issue, the quality. Yes, there's nothing wrong having many institutions, because Nigerian population is very, very high. Considering the population of Nigeria, we need many institutions. For instance, every year, less than 30% of students that are right jam are admitted. What happens to the rest? We have a huge population that require many institutions. The carrying capacity of the institution we have, they are not good enough. The carrying capacity is not good enough. For instance, university should be able to have up to 50, 60, 70,000 students, but in our environment, the carrying capacity is beyond the university with 10,000 students. It means a waste of resources. For instance, you will have vice chancellor, you have bursar, you have all members of management, but you don't require 2 vice chancellors for a university with 70,000 students population. So the carrying capacity of our universities are very low. So we have to address that. And the issue with the secondary school and primary school, we have mentioned the issue of infrastructural decay, yes, which is being addressed by government. But issue of discipline, we have cases, I have heard of cases where some teachers, they will take a job, they will take the job, they don't come, they employ another teacher to do the job.
A teacher employs another teacher?
Yes, and pay maybe 1/4 of that salary to that, they call them foster teacher.
In all those things?
I'm not, I haven't gotten confirmed
details of matter.
Yes, but
that's already a glimpse.
Yes, that is.
A teacher also employed by government is employing another teacher.
So we are trying to monitor this and see if we get one. If we get one, we make that person an example of to others to see. Yes, a lot of indiscipline, but general case of some teachers not coming to school is something that this exists, and in 2026 we are going to look at these cases of indiscipline, and for heads of schools not to discipline, not to monitor their students, not to monitor their staff. We are going to look seriously into these areas.
That could also constitute indiscipline.
Yes, indiscipline. For a head of school who is not disciplined, that person cannot control those under him or her. They cannot control the students and the other staff. So the head of school must be disciplined, must be dedicated and committed to the job. So we are looking at this. We have held meetings with all of them, but we want to really monitor the situation to see if anyone is not really doing the job the way it should be done.
Still on this proliferation of schools, aren't you also bothered about the way and manner private schools keep springing up, and then you just find one building somewhere, model international, global school, all sorts of high-sounding, faluting words, but then all of those amounting to cacophony of noises, nothing really on ground to show standard of quality. Is the Ministry of Education not looking into this?
We are already looking into that. Yes, for instance, in major towns in Ondo State, we have too many schools that are not needed, and we still receive a request for approval. And what you discover is that in many cases, within 2-3 houses, you see 2-3 different schools. Some of them in rented apartment, some of them in uncompleted building. So since November last year, I've asked my officer to stop processing of approval for new schools. I said I will lead the team to every senatorial district to see the schools for physical inspection, those schools that are applying for recognition, for approval. And I have stopped all the applications since October. I said all the applications will be compiled by towards the end of January or February. We are moving out. We want to see if they actually meet the requirements. For instance, a school that is being located very near another school, that cannot be approved because the minimum distance is 1 kilometer apart. But where you have every house becoming a school, that is not acceptable. And in many cases, these schools, they don't have any facilities that will take care of the students, of the children. And we are going to look at the quality, the standard, and at least there has to be minimal requirements to be met by these schools. So we will look at that, and we are going to carry out mapping of all schools in those states.
All right.
We really want to map them because we have a number of schools that are not documented. They are not documented. They just exist without approval, without asking for approval, without making request to recognize the school. They exist and they are not documented.
They just exist on their own.
Yes, on their own.
They do not exist in the record of
In the record of the ministry.
And yet you find many signposts government approved.
Yes, so they are fake signposts.
They are fake signposts?
Yes, we are going to do mapping of all these schools in every nook and corner of Ondo State. And once we have our documentation, then we can visit all of them and know the one that can exist and the one that cannot exist.
Well, I do know that sometimes ago, not too far ago,
yes.
not too long ago, Rufus Goa Polytechnic was said it would become a university. What has become of that?
Yes, the process is ongoing. You know, the Polytechnic has been in existence for years. And today, if you look at that Polytechnic, the fortune has gone down. Yes, the number of students who want to go to that Polytechnic has gone down, the population has gone down. So it is very, very difficult to sustain it because of low student population. So changing it to university will change the fortune. And the process is ongoing. Mr. Governor has approved the process to start, and the process is going on, and hopefully it will be completed soon. Once it is changed, the fortune will change.
But in your heart of hearts, do you think it's the right step at this time, especially when you are now at the ends of affairs in the education sector? You've seen the details. It's a school you have also led before. So yeah. I'm bothered if you think it's actually the right step in the right direction, especially looking at the financing part of this matter. Do you think it's the right step?
Yes, I want to state categorically that it is the right thing, it is the best thing to do to that Polytechnic. I've been in the Polytechnic before as the rector. I understand the system. And today, if you look at that Polytechnic, the way to revive it is to change it to a university. I will give you some instances. The wage bill of that Polytechnic today is around 300 million naira per month. None of our universities in the state gets up to that. And when you talk of other universities, the population is more than that of the Polytechnic. So, to be able to meet up with the finances of that Polytechnic, we have to change it. So when it is changed to a university, we will have more subscription. Students will come. When you have students, then there will be money. Today, we have a NEM fund that gives loans to students to pay school fees. The issue of non-payment of school fees will not be a problem. The state government is also giving bursaries to indigenes of Ondo State. The only problem the Polytechnic is having is low student population. And you already have a large number of staff. So it is not financially feasible the way it is now.
But because of time, we need to move a bit faster now.
Yes.
To what extent do you think the recent re-agreement, if we should put it that way, between the federal government and the academic staff union of universities, ASU, to what extent do you think that will go in nailing the incessant, perennial problem of strike by this association?
Thank you very much. The signing of the agreement is a good thing that can happen to our university system. You know, for long, ASU has been on this. Government, we enter into agreement with ASU, not implemented. At times, the agreement will be on paper, not signed. This has generated a crisis between ASU and federal government, and this has led to a number of protracted strikes in our university system. For many years, this is the first time agreement will be signed that is acceptable to both parties, to ASU, to government. And with this agreement being signed, ASU is happy with it, and government is also happy with it.
Is it not a question of earmarking some amount of money for a particular project, which is different from releasing funds for that particular project? Aren't you bothered that implementation of this agreement will be the main thing?
No, it has been stated that implementation starts from January 2026. So it is not something.
So time will tell.
Yes, with the way the agreement was made and signed, without much controversy, I think government is sincere with that agreement, and with that agreement, the issue of strike today, strike tomorrow will be a forgotten past.
Honorable Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, I'd like to know one thing, especially in the matter of the house before we move on. Yes. What is the need for the state chapters, especially the ASU members in state varsities?
The need.
Yeah, what is the need for state universities?
Yeah, the state universities, the ASU chapter and state university, they also agitate for whatever that happens at the federal level, and truly they are entitled to that, because university.
How many governors would domesticate this agreement in their states?
I think all governors will domesticate the agreement. Yes, like in the past, all agreements signed by federal government with the federal universities were domesticated by all state governors. Since universities are the same, they will be domesticated.
The Mimic administration was known for building mega schools. The Akeju administration went into renovation of schools. What exactly is the policy direction of the Akeju administration in the education sector?
Yeah, in the education sector, the quality of education is one of the policy direction, and access. Yes, the existing schools are being renovated so that dilapidated structures will become renovated, and those schools will be functional. For one thing is for school to exist. Another thing is for it to be functional. When you talk of functional schools, it means facilities are provided. It means when rain is falling, it will not be falling directly on the children. It means there will be available books in the library. There will be available seats and lockers for the children. And like a transportation system, transportation cost today is very high. The government is providing free shuttle services for all the children. This will enhance access and the quality. Our science laboratories are being equipped every year by this current administration. So the policy direction is to increase access and quality to education. Yes.
All right. It's a new year.
Yeah.
The year is just 15 days away. 15 days gone already. So I'd like to know what's in stock for the people from those states in the education sector this year, especially as enunciated in the budget, that you are sure will be implemented, not just earmarking.
Yes, thank you. For this year, we have a lot of projects, school projects, construction of school buildings and renovation of existing ones. They are in the pipeline. They are part of the budget that I'm very sure will be implemented this year. So a number of schools will benefit from this project. Those schools that have not been renovated in the past projects, they will benefit from this one. So that is a major part of our budget for 2026.
So there are no substantial issues that are already earmarked for the education sector in the budget. What specific things should we expect beyond schools benefiting from renovation?
Yes, there will be equipping of our schools with digital facilities. You know, these days we are talking about CBT, computer-based tests. Yes, we have to equip our schools with digital facilities that will prepare our students for this test once it is implemented.
Finally, in just 1 minute or two, I do understand that the government is trying to take over some schools from communities that are incapacitated, as it were, to manage those schools. How sincere is this takeover?
Thank you very much. Yes, government is sincere in taking over those schools, because those communities, they made requests that they could no longer manage those schools in terms of finances. They could not raise enough money and recruit enough staff, teachers, to teach the students there. The government, with sincerity, have approved those applications and have taken over those schools. But you know, the issue of taking over is not something that happens immediately and everything will be done. It is a gradual process. The approval has been secured, and those schools have become government schools, and gradually the other issues that have not been handled will be handled in very soon.
Honourable Commissioner,
yes,
do expect that in the course of the year we'll be bringing you back to track all of these issues.
Yes.
It's our job and our obligation to the people of Ondo State to ensure that government is not shortchanging them.
Yes.
So do expect that in the coming weeks, months, we will still be bringing you to look into all of these issues.
Yes.
Professor, thank you so much for coming on Ondo State. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Professor Ibekele Ajibefun is the Honorary Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, and we've been discussing the education sector vis-a-vis efforts at ensuring ease of access to education in the state. I thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this conversation. It returns next week, God willing. I am Sunday Kolawole. Enjoy the rest of the week.